Have you ever wished you could stop time, freeze a moment, hold on to what once was? You looked back and something in your heart whispered, Asterisk, I wish everything could stay the same. It's natural. When something makes us feel good, the soul wants to keep it. When something changes without warning, the mind wants to resist it. And without realizing it, we fight what cannot be avoided. But Buddhism, with its ancient wisdom, reminds us of a simple and powerful truth. Everything changes. Everything flows. Everything transforms. Suffering is born when we cling. Peace when we learn to let go. Today, I want to share with you a message that can ease your heart and expand your awareness. How can we accept the passing of time and the changes of life without fear? How do we stop resisting and begin to trust? If this message already resonates with you, subscribe to the channel, stay until the end, because you will not only learn to accept change, but to grow within it. High on a mountain, among gentle mist and ancient trees, stood a Buddhist temple surrounded by silence and calm. There, a young monk was beginning his inner journey. He was curious, devoted, and deeply sensitive. One day, while sweeping the temple garden, he found a small wildflower growing between the stones. Its color was so vivid, its shape so delicate, that something in his heart was moved. He began to care for it with great attention. Every morning, he watered it with fresh water from the stream, protected it from the wind, and placed small stones so the sun would not strike it too harshly. He sat beside it during meditation. It was more than a flower. It was his companion, his symbol of beauty and stability. But as the days passed, the flower began to wilt. First a leaf, then a petal, until its color slowly faded. The young monk was filled with sadness. He tried more water, more shade, even soft mantras spoken under his breath. Nothing seemed to stop the process. One morning, holding back tears, he went to see his teacher. Master, the flower I care for is dying, he said with a trembling voice. I did everything I could, but I can't stop it from fading. The elderly master looked at him with kindness and replied, My son, did you know this flower was never meant to stay? Then why did life allow me to find it? Why care for it if it was destined to leave? The master silently lifted his gaze to the trees swaying in the wind and said, Because its purpose was not to stay, but to teach you to love without possessing, to enjoy without holding on, to care without demanding permanence, to understand that what blooms is also meant to transform. This flower showed you something sacred. Everything that comes into your life arrives to teach you something, not for you to cling to it, but for you to honor it, live it, and then let it go in peace. The young monk lowered his eyes and, for the first time, instead of watering the flower, he thanked it in silence, because he understood that even loss can be a form of love. Close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself honestly, what flower are you trying to hold on to in your life? What part of your story are you clinging to, afraid that it might change? Can you love without gripping, appreciate without holding on? The flower fades. The day turns into night. Love changes its shape. And you too are in constant transformation. You haven't lost anything. You are simply being called to let go. And from that humility of non-attachment, true wisdom begins. Because as Buddhism teaches, resistance to change is the root of suffering. From this inner openness, I now invite you to calmly receive the teachings that follow. They are not just ideas, they are keys. Keys that can help you live through change without fear and walk through life with greater presence and acceptance. Just as the young monk had to let go of his flower, you too are being called to release with love. And this is where we begin to understand the first great teaching of Buddhism. Let us begin. Teaching 1. Impermanence is a spiritual law. One of the most powerful and also most challenging teachings of Buddhism is the principle of anicca, impermanence. Everything changes. Everything. The faces that smile at you today will one day depart. The emotions that stir you now will settle. Even you are not the same person you were a year ago. Not even the same as yesterday. Yet the ego clings, attaches itself, wants to stop the river with its hands, freeze moments as if they were eternal, turn the present into a cage instead of a bridge. But the river does not stop. And here lies the deeper truth. To resist change is to resist life itself. Impermanence is not a threat. It is a reminder of the sacred. That nothing and no one belongs to you, but everything can be loved deeply while it is here. When you understand this, you stop suffering over the passage of time. You begin to live each moment, each connection, each breath with gratitude. Because you know that everything that is born also transforms, and that is not loss. It is evolution. The tree releases its leaves. The sun withdraws into the night. The child becomes an adult. And you too are being invited to let a part of yourself die so another part can bloom. Impermanence is not a punishment. It is a sacred law that lovingly prepares you for inner freedom. Teaching 2. We suffer when we cling. It is not change that hurts. It is attachment to what no longer is. What hurts you is not the passing of time, nor the new stage, nor the unexpected farewell. What truly hurts is that inner desire for things to remain as they were, to freeze moments, to hold on to what has already passed. But Buddhism reminds us of this with compassion. Pain is born when the mind clings to an illusion of permanence. Sometimes we want a relationship not to change, that version of ourselves to stay alive, that phase to never end. And when life pushes us towards something new, we resist, we fight, we suffer. Yet, every ending is a teacher in disguise. When you accept that a cycle is closing, you make space for something different, wiser, more aligned, to arrive. This is not about resignation. It is about trust. Trust that every door that closes is not a punishment, but a sacred form of protection. Trust that your soul knows what it needs to release. Even if your ego does not yet understand it, remember, letting go is not losing. It is choosing your peace over your attachment. And when you do that, suffering loosens its grip and rebirth begins. Teaching 3. The soul matures through change. If you look back today, which moments transformed you the most? They were likely not the most comfortable ones. Not the calm days or the stages where everything felt secure. They were the moments when life shook you, when it forced you to let go of a relationship, leave a place, close a chapter, or face an unexpected loss. The soul does not expand in the comfort zone. The soul matures in the storm, in uncertainty, in change. Buddhism has taught this for centuries. Do not fear the movement of life. It is precisely in that apparent disorder that awakening begins. Because when everything moves on the outside, something starts to come into order within. Great awakenings do not happen when everything is stable. They happen when everything changes, when the old identity breaks, when plans fail, when you can no longer control anything and all that remains is surrender. But that surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is recognizing that life has a greater intelligence and that resisting it only prolongs suffering. Sometimes the soul needs external structures to fall so it can remember its true inner strength. And when that happens, you are never the same again. You become more compassionate, more calm, more authentic. So if you are going through a change, do not reject it. You may not see it yet, but you are maturing at the level of the soul. Teaching 4, do not control the river. Learn to float. Imagine for a moment that you are inside a river. The current carries you. You do not know exactly where it is taking you, but you can feel the strength of its pull. Now ask yourself, what happens if you resist? If you try to swim against the flow, if you cling to a rock, if you shout to go back? You become exhausted, frustrated, and in that struggle, you lose your peace. Life is that river, always moving, always carrying you toward something new. And yet, so often, we try to control its course. We want to stop the inevitable, hold on to what is already leaving, or force what has not yet arrived. But the wise one, Buddhism teaches, does not fight the current, does not resist, does not cling. They float, observe, and adapt. This does not mean resignation. It means trust. Trust that the river of life is not carrying you at random, but toward where your soul needs to go, even if from the ego or from fear. You do not understand the destination. When you release the need to control everything, true peace appears. A peace that does not depend on everything being perfect, but on your ability to let go of control and flow with awareness. Instead of asking yourself how to stop this from changing, you can ask, what can I learn from this movement? What part of me needs to trust life more? Because the river does not stop, and you were not made to anchor yourself to one shore. You were made to learn to float. Teaching 5, what leaves makes space for what must arrive. Every loss, no matter how painful it may seem, is also a form of spiritual cleansing. When something or someone moves away from your life, it leaves a void. And that void is often so uncomfortable that we try to fill it with memories, with nostalgia, with resistance. But what we do not always see is that this new space, this inner opening, is not punishment. It is preparation. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that life has its own intelligence. An intelligence that sometimes, without asking our permission, removes from our path what has already completed its cycle, not to hurt us, but to open us to what truly aligns with our growth. Sometimes something is taken from you to give you space. Sometimes you are released so you can fly. Sometimes you break so that the light can enter. But none of this happens if we keep looking backward. If you continue to focus your energy on what you lost, you will not be able to see what is knocking at the door. The mind wants certainty. The soul needs space. And how do you create space? By letting go, by being grateful for what was lived, and by trusting that what is meant to arrive cannot do so while you remain tied to what has already passed. Today, life may be inviting you to do just that, to stop looking in the rearview mirror, to release what was with love, and to open your arms, not to hold on, but to receive. The soul is not filled by the past. It expands in the present when the new finds room. Pause for a moment. Breathe slowly and deeply. Feel how the air enters and leaves your body, just as life itself does, without clinging, without stopping. Ask yourself honestly, what part of you is still resisting change? What are you holding on to that is already asking to be released with love? Sometimes the greatest act of wisdom is not to do more, but to allow life to do its work. And simply trust. The tree does not cling to autumn. It releases its leaves, knowing new ones will come. Why would you keep carrying what life has already asked you to let go of? Close your eyes for a moment. Breathe gently and deeply and repeat internally with me, feeling each word from the heart. I embrace change as a sacred part of my evolution. I lovingly release what has already fulfilled its purpose in my life. I trust that everything that transforms guides me toward my highest good. My soul does not fear change. It honors it as part of awakening. I no longer cling. I no longer resist. I choose to flow with the dance of life. I am exactly where I need to be. And everything that arrives will also pass. Breathe again. Feel how these words take root in your energy and allow this truth to live within you beyond this video. Time does not come to take anything from you. It comes to show you that nothing truly belongs to you. Not people, not moments, not the forms of yesterday. Everything changes. Everything flows. Everything transforms. And when you stop resisting, life begins to embrace you from a deeper place. If this message brought you clarity, peace, or simply a breath for the soul, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to learn to let go with love. Tell me in the comments what you are ready to release and what new version of yourself you are willing to welcome. Remember, nothing stays the same, but what transforms with awareness blooms. And you, even in the midst of change, remain light. I'll see you soon in another meeting of the soul. Until then, keep flowing, keep shining. A hug of light.